All right, welcome back to the KFYR Plus News Desk. Well, spring is still weeks away, but allergy sufferers may already be feeling those effects. Today on Medical Minute, we talk with Dr. McGee about a simple step that you can take now to reduce some symptoms and stay ahead of the spring allergy season. Dr. McGee, welcome back to the News Desk.
Hey there, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's Friday, it's payday, and
Good.
we've got some nice weather.
Yeah, that's great. Payday, always important.
It is very much.
Yeah,
Okay, you know what else is important for people to prepare before pollen counts rise? I've already got some people here in the office in the reporters' lounge that are already sniffling and got the tissues up to their nose.
absolutely. So, and I love these questions you have today because it's so important allergy medications are going to work best, they work best for preventive, right? We want to use them
Hmm.
to prevent this cycle from even starting. So whenever this inflammation starts to happen where we're sniffling and we have all of this going on, well, the histamine's already been released, the nasal inflammation is there, the mucus production is there, and then our airway sensitivity starts to happen. So we want to reduce the severity of that, right? So,
Hmm.
it's so important, because we want to protect also and stay, enter with energy because once our immune system starts to kick in that inflammation, we slowly start to just kind of, like you said, we're sneezing, we're coughing, it's runny nose, and all of these other things, are taking place. So it's so important that we stop that inflammation in the first place.
Are there any early symptoms that people should be watching for that signal their allergies are starting? Of course, the obvious sneezing and watery eyes, I guess, right?
Yeah, a tickle in their nose. Some people feel a tickle in their nose. Some people say, I got a tickle in my ears. Or sometimes they'll say, in my throat, I just feel that little tickle. Those
Hmm.
are all symptoms. Sometimes they'll get this, really watery drainage from their nose. That's another symptom. Some people that get it affects their eyes will start to get those itchy eyes. They're waking up with those itchy eyes and really rubbing them. Other, people that have allergies with asthma, sometimes they start to feel their airway getting a little bit tighter, or it just feels like it's a little bit more difficult to breathe.
Do allergies come on more significant as we get older?
They do, unfortunately. That's such a good question because our autoimmune system gets older, right?
Hmm.
Unfortunately, everything gets older in our body, and that includes our autoimmune system, which is why it's so important for us to be taking those vitamins. Taking the vitamin C, like I know we talked about that before, but getting those on board and keep helping our immune system as we get older is a really good way of preventing a lot of these allergies from being so significant.
When should someone begin taking allergy medications to get the best results?
So this is such a great question. You want to start before pollen season, right? Because we want to like at least 1 to 2 weeks. So if I know in April, every April, I know I'm going to get allergies because
Hmm.
it's everything's starting to bloom, then I'm going to start in the middle of March. I'm going to get ahead of it 1 to 2 weeks. So if everything starts for people, some people have allergies in spring, fall, and winter, it all depends on, what they're allergic to. But getting a hold of that at least 2 weeks in advance is so important because we don't want the pollen count to rise, right? And we don't want to wait till that starts to happen. I was going to say there is a app that I like to use called Air Now, and Air Now
Hmm.
kind of gives me that pollen count. Or if you even have the weather, the weather apps, it'll give you the pollen count. So you can start paying attention to that. But definitely before the weather starts to, if you know you're going to be affected in, like I said, April, start 2 weeks ahead of time at the mid-March.
Okay. How do we know which over the counter medications are going to be right for us? Because there is quite a number of over the counter medications we can use now.
Absolutely. I love your questions. They're so good, you know, it's
Thank you.
because this is so important. We get so many patients that have those same questions. And our biggest one, is what are we first we have to look at what are my symptoms, right? So if I'm having symptoms of itchy nose, like I said, that watery nose,
Hmm.
that itching in my throat, the best choice for me is going to be the oral antihistamine. I could do the Zyrtec, I could do the loratadine or the Allegra. All of those are Allegra, Zyrtec, and Claritin. So those are all good for that with that histamine. Now, if my nose is blocked up, right, and I'm really feeling like I'm congested, that's when I want to get that nasal spray. You could buy it over the counter now. The Flonase is available. That one will definitely, especially if people say, you know what, I don't get the runny nose, I don't get the itchy in my throat,
Hmm.
my nose just starts to block. That's where you could just use that Flonase. And then people who have the watery eyes, right? Or you'll see they're starting, like I know in the fall, the trees start to produce this almost cottony material. That's
Yep.
horrible for eye allergy people. And they will immediately, their eyes start to, almost where it's a viral conjunctivitis because they're just itchy and pulling stuff out of there. That's where you want to use that over the counter eye drops for allergies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
absolutely. And then if you have combination, you have, itchy water, itchy throat and plus the congestion, you can always use a allergy medicine like Allegra D, Claritin D, Zyrtec D. That will help the decongestant and the antihistamine part.
Should any of these be used in conjunction with the other? For instance, if you're taking the pill for your allergies, and then all of a sudden you are stuffed up and you use the Flonase, is that something maybe we shouldn't do, or is that okay?
That is absolutely okay. And most people because some people just have really bad allergies and they're in a, they're working outside. They're,
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're so exposed to it that they can't get away from, from that atmosphere or that environment. But I will say, those people that do work in those atmospheres where they're outside and they're doing things and just regular people, when you're, outside doing work in the yard all day, come back in, give your nasal passages a good rinse with some nasal saline, and that will help pull a lot of that yucky stuff out of there because everything's sticking to our nose hairs, right? So just doing that quick thing, or sometimes take a shower, get all of that pollen and everything you've picked up outside off of you.
Okay. So, when is it time, Doc, to consider prescription treatment or allergy testing if maybe over the counters just are not working for us?
So whenever that starts, whenever we need like a stronger antihistamine, right? Or we need a combination nasal spray that's going to be that steroid plus the antihistamine, when we start
Hmm.
to have poor sleep, when we start to have to miss work because our allergies are so, even though we're taking those medications, they're
Sure.
still not under control. Um, Otherwise, if I'm starting to feel a lot of, fatigue, I'm just exhausted, I'm tired, I sneezed all night and I took all my allergy medication, or if they're starting to get a lot of sinus infections, if sinus infections are happening like every 3 months, it's definitely time to go and see somebody. And if they have asthma and their asthma is also being affected, like they're getting wheezing, their chest is feeling tighter, those are definitely times that we need to go in. And whenever they do see the doctor, get that allergies, get tested for allergies. Now, there's two ways you could get tested for allergies. There's a blood draw, and
Hmm.
there's another way that it's like a skin test. I prefer, in my own opinion, the blood draw. It gives me a better look at everything that person is allergic to. You could do it for food, you could do it for environment. There's many different, allergy panels you can pick from.
Oh, interesting. I did not know about the blood draw. I knew about the skin test where they kind of touch you. They put like a square on your back, don't they? And they just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
go along and
Yeah.
touch you with other
Yeah.
things to see what you're allergic to. So that's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for parents that are preparing children who are dealing with seasonal allergies?
Definitely. This is so important too because we have so many little guys, right? And some of them, we say that asthma, eczema, and allergies kind of all like to hang out together. So sometimes if a kid has asthma, we always have to watch for triggers. But I would definitely say, if they're frequently rubbing their nose, or our big tail sign is those dark circles that
Hmm.
kids can get under their eyes, if they're snoring, if they're mouth breathing, or if they're just really irritable or they're constantly clearing that throat or coughing and they're just constantly doing that, those are all signs that they might have an allergy. And, it could be from exposure to the pollen, it could be from an air conditioner. There's a lot of different things. We have so many stuffed animals for our kids too, right? Just load them
Hmm.
down with those. And sometimes they have a lot of dust that accumulates on those guys. And so that can also lead to allergies in kiddos,
Do
especially if
any
they're
air
if they're allergic to it and we don't know. So I'm so sorry.
uh,
Good.
no, no. Does an air purifier? Let's say that you were to buy an air purifier for your home. Is that going to help out in any way?
Absolutely. I have one in my office and I have one at home in my bedroom. It's you want to have an air purifier where you're spending the most time. So you would be amazed if you ever see in the light all the stuff, you ever be in the light in your one of your rooms
Yep.
and see all the
Yeah.
stuff, particles in the air. Well, that HEPA filter is going to grab all that stuff, put it in there, and get rid of a lot of that. So it's so important while we sleep. All of that stuff is still accumulating as we're walking on the floor, right? Especially if we have carpeting in our rooms, and most of us do. That's just rising up. So we definitely want to have one of those, in the room with their child or with us.
Allergies, is this a trait passed along from parents to children, or is this something that, we pick up?
It definitely can be passed in the genes, unfortunately. So, but it can also, the good news is if you have two parents and one has allergies and one doesn't, if you're lucky, you're gonna you're gonna go toward that patient,
Mm,
that parent get most of those genes,
yeah.
to rule out the other ones. But unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't happen, and we do, as we get older, our immune system starts to, slow
Just
down.
weaken.
So,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Individuals with asthma, it's got to be kind of a dangerous time this time of year, spring and even the fall, or
Yeah.
even other respiratory issues. How do they prepare indifferently or at all differently with this time of year?
So we definitely were the same thing that we would do for them would be to start those allergy medications early. So if mom and dad are going to be taking them out to the lake or to the, to go swim, all that fun stuff, and you know that they're going to start getting allergies in the summer and the spring,
Hmm.
you definitely want to start preparing 2 weeks ahead, like I said, mid-March, start getting them on something. If it's not till the summertime they get something, mid-April, start getting them rolling on the medication for, the allergies. And then they want to have an action plan for their asthma. Definitely make sure that their action plan for asthma is up to date. And what that is basically a plan for, if they do have a little bit of respiratory issues, right, with the asthma or anything. It's a plan that, that is given to parents from doctors that this is the plan we have for your child to make sure that we have their asthma in control. And they want to make sure that they're going in to see that doctor to make sure that that's up to date. And making sure they're checking their inhalers for expiration dates, right? Because sometimes people will tell me, I'm not feeling better. I've been, taking my pump and we'll say, well, what's the expiration date on that? Because If you're only taking it once a year when your allergies are kicking in, then we definitely need to make sure that the expiration date and it's not expired. So, and then the other part is, making sure that they have a proper inhaler with them. We want to, and knowing how to use it. So a lot of times, kids are just, we really have to train them because
Yes.
they're just, this is all new to them and they're just amazed with what this little thing does for them. So we really have to take time to make sure that we're getting them the right amount of medication and we're giving it the right way.
Okay. Untreated allergies, can they be leading to bigger problems, bigger health issues, asthma flare ups, or sinus infections?
Yeah. So I would definitely say before I move on, I just wanted to warn parents that do have these kids with the allergies on high pollen days. When that pollen's really up, please
Hmm.
keep the windows closed. Make sure they're using the air conditioning. Avoid exercising or having them on the trampoline or anything like that. And then if they do go outdoors, like I said, coming back in and taking a shower will help those kiddos dealing with that pollen. So going back to your next one, if it's untreated, it can definitely lead to the most, infection we see with this is a sinus infection. So
Okay.
how it works is like we said, that swelling, that inflammation, and then it can grow into, where it's actually triggers the asthma because then it's going into their lungs or they're really draining at night, and then their lungs want to get that mucus out of there, right? And so they start coughing and sometimes, parents got to really listen for if they are having a hard time struggling with or, wheezing. So, with children, the other part with the allergies is unfortunately it goes right to the ears. They're so little, those little guys, their little, pathways are smaller than ours. And so, sometimes it goes to the ears. So if they're tugging or if they're having difficulty sleeping, and they're mouth breathing and snoring a lot, those are things parents need to look into. And maybe it's time to see that allergist or that pediatrician.
Okay. And finally, what's one simple step that you recommend everyone take to make sure that their spring allergy season is a little bit more manageable?
So I would say definitely, check the pollen count. I can't
First
keep
step.
saying that.
First step.
It's
Yep.
so important, yes, and plan around it. You might not be able that day, it's going to just be a really high, and you might just have to make other plans. And kind of, looking at, are my windows closed? Like I said, am I limiting my outdoor time? Because in the mornings when we see that influx, right? If you're driving, it's like a cloud of pollen. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, people that commute, especially in North Dakota, you just really see it and all that dew coming up. And so you definitely want to keep, they need to keep their air conditioner on, close it so that it's not pulling in that if you're driving and you're using that commute, and just limiting that morning time. And then like I said, showering as you're going outdoors is so important, because it decreases your symptoms of severity. It helps you so you don't have to use as much medication, and it lowers the risk of sinus infection and asthma flare-ups. So don't wait for your symptoms to start your productive medications early.
Yeah, great news. Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Spring allergy season, it's going to be here sooner than later because, I mean, we're coming off of February. We've had so many beautiful days here in Bismarck, Mandan, and we're going into March now with highs in the 50s once again. And normally, you'd think we're just about wrapping up winter. We still got some 20 or 30-degree days in front of us. We kind of do this weekend, but next week it's going to be 40s and 50s all next week. So spring
Yeah,
is here.
yeah, absolutely. And time to get on those allergies, right?
It sure is. Doc, thank
Absolutely.
you so much. I sure appreciate you.
You're welcome. You have a great weekend, okay?
You too. We'll talk to you soon now. Bye bye. All right, quick break here at the news desk. We'll be right back here to KFYR Plus.